I was the surrogate for my best friend, and now she won't let me see the baby. I still remember the time when Maya proposed that I be her surrogate. We were sitting on my couch with wine and discussing life. Maya always wanted to have children, and she tried on various occasions, but after having endless IVF procedures, she and her husband Jake were nearing the end of the road. Next step in the queue was adoption, but Maya was not ready to part from the idea of a biological child. She gave me a look that was hinting for hope and discrediting any form of desperation. Then she spoke. Would you ever consider being a surrogate? She spoke with caution, as though the answer frightened her. My thoughts were clouds of confusion. Surrogacy has never crossed my mind. But at the same time, Maya was my best friend. Scratch that, she was more like a sister to me. We had seen it all together. If anyone wished for a sense of glee, it was her. And in that second, my goal was clear. I want to help her turn her chase for a dream into reality. Of course I'd consider it, I said, my voice calm as my heart raced. If I can help you have a baby, I will do it. As she embraced me, Maya's eyes brimmed with tears, and I felt an infusion of warmth. There was comfort in knowing that this was the right decision, and now I felt certain. For the next few months, it was a blur of doctor visits, legal paperwork, and fluctuating emotions. Jake and Maya were over the moon, as was I, and was equally happy to aid them. I had never pictured myself having kids, but this was fundamentally different. Carrying a child for my best friend felt like something that would strengthen our relationship in ways we did not yet comprehend. The pregnancy was smooth sailing. I took care of myself while following all the orders from my doctors, and Maya was there for every little thing. She attended every appointment, held my hand during ultrasounds, and sobbed when she was exposed to the sound of our baby's heartbeat for the very first time. We laughed, poking fun, as it all felt surreal for me to be the one carrying her baby. But timidly, I acknowledged that this feeling was much greater than any of us could imagine. When I was going into labor, Maya was in the delivery room beside me, gripping my palm and softly cheering me on. It has been one of the most challenging, yet profoundly enriching moments of my life. I have never been this emotionally attached to another human being, to both Maya and the infant. I imagined that this ordeal would strengthen our bond, intertwining us in a manner that would endure a lifetime. But that is not what unfolded. Everything shifted after the birth. If you haven't joined our channel yet, then you might not see this again. But if you are part of our subscribers, then congratulations. You can always watch and listen to the most fascinating stories, whenever you please. The beginning weeks were a roller coaster of emotions. I knew I would find it challenging to let go of the child, and I made peace with that. However, I had not anticipated the drastic transformation in Maya's attitude towards me. After the birth, she appeared extremely apathetic, almost too cold. I brushed it off as the consequences of newly becoming a mother. However, when they brought the baby home, it was as if Maya wanted to forget that I was pregnant. She cut off communication and stopped picking up my calls, and when I would try to arrange to see the baby, she would make excuses saying that Jake was busy, the baby was crying, or that they were tired. I attempted to be considerate. New parents have a load of responsibilities, and I did not want to come off as demanding. Yet, as the weeks turned into months, it was genuinely clear that something was off. Whenever I inquired about visiting, Maya would always appear to change the subject. At first, she would claim, "We will set something up so," but that never happened, and she eventually stopped responding to me. So one day I snapped. I decided to simply drive over to Maya's house without her telling me to. I felt that if she saw me face to face, she would agree to talk and let me finally see the baby. After all, I had carried her child for 9 months. Certainly, she wouldn't deny me this. My heart was racing when I got to her house. I waited for a bit after ringing the doorbell, but nobody came to answer. Since I could hear movements inside, I rang again. This time, the door cracked open, and there stood Maya looking surprised, and not in a good way. Sarah said, "What business do you have here?" She spoke in a monotonic voice. I forced a smile on my face as I responded by saying, "I came to visit you, and the baby. I was not able to hear from you in a long time. I thought maybe we could meet up." Maya didn't respond right away. She looked back, and then decided to go outside, closing the door behind her. "Not at this moment," she said briskly. "It is not a good time. The baby is sleeping, and Jake is working." I was left astonished as I said, "I will not stay for long. All I want is to just see him. Please, Maya, it has been so many months already. Having gratitude also has its limits, all right? I appreciate what you did for us, but we are asking for distance right now. This is a time where we have to work on building a connection with the baby, and I do not think this is the best environment for you to be in, not with us around." If your words were a slap, then the last statement was an uncountable number of grenades. I haven't had the chance to meet the baby since the day he came into this world. So MOT, what do you mean I am around too much? I thought we agreed that I would be able to take a part in the baby's life. There was something that I could not distinguish in Maya's gaze, irritation or guilt. "We didn't make any such arrangements," she hissed. "You were the surrogate, Sarah. You did assist us with his birth, and for that, we will remain forever thankful. But you are not his mother. I am. The ground tilted in the opposite direction. I suppose I always knew that I was not the baby's mother, but to hear Maya say it so dispassionately, so carelessly, cut deeper than a knife. I never said I desired to mother him, I replied, my voice beginning to waver. But I bore him for 9 months. I thought we were friends. I at least thought I would get to see him. She looked down at me and bit her lip. I am sorry, she ultimately said, but there's a choice we've made and it is best for the baby if we limit your involvement. We have to progress as a family unit. I looked at her dumbly because I was unable to comprehend what she was saying. Limit my involvement? Maya, I'm not just some third party. I did this to help you when there was no one present to assist you. And I will always be grateful, she said, her tone dropping higher for a second. But this is how it has to be. Without adding anything else, she pivoted and walked back into the house, shutting the door behind her. I stood there on the porch, my heart shattering into pieces. It was like a puzzle that someone had broken down and scattered its pieces everywhere. I had never felt so betrayed in my life. Maya had begged me to help her, and I had given her everything, which is all why I am so shocked. My time, my body, my love. And now she is shutting me out, not letting me step into the life I so desperately try to pursue with her. I drove home in a daze, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a boulder. What just transpired? How did our friendship, our bond that had grown so beautifully, break within minutes? Just like that? I had sacrificed so much for Maya. For her dream of becoming a mother, and now she was acting as if I didn't exist and have a place in her or the baby's life. That night I lay in bed wondering, how did a dream of pursuing my life or bolstering my deep-seated bonds come to living a life filled with regrets every moment I breathe? Almost as if I was trying to replay every single second of my time spent with her. Upon reflection, I realized I was wrong. I believe I wasn't just the surrogate. I was disposable. I reached out to Maya in hopes to speak to her, but every call went unanswered and every text ignored. It was clear I had been erased from her life. I had convinced myself that it was not personal and she was just overwhelmed with motherhood, but deep down, I knew she had used me. Now that the baby is born, I am nothing to her. Every single word stings the heart. However, the absence of the child I carried fills the heart with unspeakable pain. All the effort and love I put into the situation is now met with the cold realization that my best friend does not want me in her life. I am left with an empty room and aching heart. My argument with Maya led to some of the toughest moments in my life. Her voice telling me, we need to move forward as a family, you're not his mother, replayed over and over in my head. I often felt a sense of longing, wishing I could just press mute on my head. Switching off my thoughts was simply not an option. Prior to the argument, I was well aware of how handing over the baby would be a tough task and prepared myself for it. However, I was not prepared to be completely shut out. I did not just lose a baby, I lost a good friend. In the weeks that followed, I was certainly not prepared for this big of a change. I kept telling myself that Maya was a new mother and was naturally busy, so everything was slowly going to be all right. She was certainly not as busy as I presumed, because every single of my calls went unpicked, and my messages were read but went unanswered. Now, I can say without a shred of doubt that Maya was not just busy, she was purposely attempting to create as much distance as possible. Once she reached her goal of being a mother, I became completely irrelevant to her. This was a situation I never thought I would find myself in. I was mourning, not only for the child I lost, but also for the friendship that I held so dear. I thought that this would bring us closer together and that we would be able to bond over an experience which very few could comprehend. Instead, it managed to rip us apart. All I was left with were questions that remained unanswered. How would she do something like this to me? What I also wondered was how she could simply act like what happened in the last 9 months was inconsequential. How would a person who I regarded as a sister to would become so frigid, distant, and downright brutal? I broke down completely to Jessica, my oldest friend who had been with me throughout my pregnancy. She was the one who used to motivate me and opted to surrogate my child for Maya, and despite Jessica's immense protective nature towards me, she was so enraged on my behalf that it caught me off guard. I still can't believe this, she said as we sat in her living room over a cup of tea one day. You went out of your way to say yes to all of her demands. You did what most people wouldn't think of doing. And now, she does nothing but ghost you. With cherry lips and knowing eyes, Jess continued, you carried that baby for 9 long months. You were part of this journey with her, and now it feels like you have never existed. It felt so wrong, so vicious. With every passing week, I slowly tried to deal with the pain. I kept myself as busy as I could because I didn't want to think about my heart hurting. But Maya's silence was still eating at me. Why was she doing this? I simply didn't get it. What had changed? During the entire pregnancy, we had been so close and went through every milestone together. Why was she now suddenly so distant? Then, one day, I got my answer. While at home, trying to figure out the reason things had gone south by scrolling through my older conversations with Maya, I received a notification. It was a message from Lauren, a friend of ours who had been in our circle for some time now. "Hey, I just heard something that I thought you should know. Not sure if it's true, but figured you'd want to be aware." I felt my heart rate elevate and frowned all while typing my response. "What is it?" There was a substantial pause from Lauren's side before she finally responded. "Maya has been telling others that you were obsessed with the baby, and this is how she explains why she didn't want to talk to you. She claimed that it was getting unhealthy for you, that you wanted more than just being the surrogate and, well, wanted to keep the child." My heart sunk. I found myself absorbing the message, not quite comprehending what I was reading. Maya was telling people who were willing to listen that I was the problem? Try obsessed with the baby? My palms turned sweaty, and I felt so angry. Now, that's not true. Why would she say that? I don't know. Lauren reminded me, with an indication she was relatively uninterested. But I have heard it from a few people now. Makes it sound like in order for her to be comfortable, you would take on a role which is much deeper than what she wants. I was disgusted. Maya was manipulating the facts and twisting them around to paint me as some kind of emotional headcase having an obsessive attachment to a child that didn't belong to me, someone periods of anger to do abuse themselves to death. The emotional pain emanating from the betrayal was unbearable. I had been supporting her throughout everything, respecting the boundaries that we had chosen, letting her cope with the new life after she gave birth. However, she was trying to utterly assassinate my reputation, spinning the tale in a way that gave me roots to the environment